Welcome to the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast, proudly presented by What If, official travel and pathways partner of the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Here are your hosts, Mark Ellison, Shannon Donato, and Jeremy Monahan.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast, powered by Audio Technica and proudly presented by What If. What If has you covered for accommodation, flights, car hire and more. So if you're looking for a holiday, travelling for business, or you need to get to the next game, visit whatif.com/Rabbitohs. What If, it's Aussie for travel. My name's Jeremy Monahan. I am the media manager here at the Rabbitohs. I'd like to welcome my co-hosts Mark Ellison and Shannon Donato. How are you, gents?
Very well, Jez. Great to be back again. Enjoying doing this, on a weekly basis, and haven't listened to Shannon, but I can put up with that.
Very good. How are you, Shannon?
I'm very well, thank you, great man. How are you?
I'm well. So we're, just for the listeners, we're about 17 minutes late kicking off this morning, but the last 17 minutes has probably been the best podcast fodder that we've churned out over the past month. So I wish I'd pressed record. But anyway, we're kicking off now. And speaking of our listeners, we want to thank everyone that's taken the time to give us a 5-star rating on their podcast app, as well as writing us a review. I checked it out the other day, and there's quite a few on there. So we really appreciate your efforts in doing that, because it helps lift us up in the search engine on the podcast app. So we really appreciate you taking the time to do that. Now, as we do each week, something that we have learned this week. Shannon, we'll kick off with you.
Jez, that game in Melbourne, whilst it was very disappointing to get the loss, I think the boys showed a lot. After a bit of a slow start, they sort of fought back against the best defence in the competition I believe Melbourne have, and I'm sure we'll get there and have the best defence. But what I learnt was just how much strike power we had on both edges. Every time we held the ball and completed our sets, we just troubled them. Every time we went wide on either edge, we really, really troubled the best defence in the comp. So what I learned was we've just got amazing strike power, and we've just got to hold the ball to prove it.
Yeah, very good. Hello, what did you learn this week?
Well, mine were along the lines of down in Melbourne as well. I just learnt that you can't be complacent in this game. I think we had a great pre-season. A lot of the media's been, hyping up, our squad, and we're one of the premiership favourites and everything. We may well be, but when you run on the field, all that goes out the window. So I just think we may have just been a little bit complacent. And as Shannon said, there were great signs in the game, but if we want to be the team we want to be, we've got to get over those starts that we've been having. It was a bit slow start there, but I'm sure it'll change this week.
Very good. Well, that's enough footy talk. The thing that I've learnt this week is that our sponsorship department, headed up by you, Shannon, is the number one in the game. And in the last week, they managed to secure a sponsorship with global company McDonald's. They obviously see the benefit in supporting a club like the South Sydney Rabbitohs. And just for the people watching on our website, they'll be able to see this photo, or you can look it up if you Google the Rabbitohs and McDonald's sponsorship announcement. This was one of the publicity shots with about 50 or 60 bags of McDonald's there, and this is the new definition of McDonald's McHappy Meal. Look at this man here. Shannon Donato could not be happier to have about 60 bags of McDonald's in front of him, and what I'm most disappointed about is we don't all have bacon and egg McMuffins in front of us this morning.
We'll have to call him Ronald from now on.
Ronald Donato.
I did have 4 bacon and egg rolls to bring in, but I did have them.
That's very good. All right. Now, our first top 4 topic of the morning, the top 4 moments in your playing career. I thought this was very broad and something that might bring up some memories from when you were back playing. We might start with you, Ello.
Well, Shannon always bags me about having more than 4, but, I mean, it's hard to talk about him individually or as a member of a team, and I prefer to do that. Obviously, my debut, like most players that play in the NRL, that's a memory you always have, and it was a top 4 moment for me. We played in the I think it was called the Panasonic Cup, the midweek comp back there, which significantly doesn't count as an NRL game, Jez, I believe, in the stats.
It does not.
So, that's a bit disappointing. But anyway, played against Combined Brisbane up at the Old Lang Park. And, I think I was 19 or 20. We had a pretty young side. Some of the other local juniors in the team, Darryl Neville and Rossi Harrington and Tugger and Mario. And it happened to be, a pretty solid game. They had Wally Lewis, Meninga and Miles. They had Belcher at fullback. The forwards were Dowling, Canescu, Fulton, Smith, Niebling, and Lindner at lock. So
wow,
it was a pretty.
May as well have been Queensland.
Yeah, let
alone Brisbane.
And the coach was Bob McCarthy. By the way. Yeah. So that was interesting. Bobby spent a bit of time up there, but the funny part about it, you're always nervous, and I think there was an error early in the game, and they've gone in this scrum, and someone's called out Henry. And I had no idea what Henry was, And I think every South Sydney supporter and player knows what Henry is now, but it didn't take long to work it out. So that was the introduction, but we lost the game, but it was sort of the start of the season for us. Like we were coming, I think we were 10th at that stage, and it was mid-season, and we got on a roll and got to get to the playoffs, and I think that's one of my second moments was we had a period there at the end of 1984, which is the same year, where we had to win the last game of the season to get in a playoff spot. Back in those days, it was the top 5, so we had to make a playoff for 5th. And in that week, we played North Sydney on the Sunday, played the Canberra Raiders in a playoff. We beat North Sydney and then played the Canberra Raiders in a playoff at the SCG, beat them, then came and played Manly on the Saturday in a knockout elimination semi-final. And again, that Henry came up. We'll be on 14-0.
Knockout game, certainly was. Big shout out to Glenn Ryan this morning if you happen to be listening.
And, you talk about the players now, they might play 4 games in 17 days, and it's a tough ask, which it is. But in that week we played 3 games in 6 days, and each one of them was an elimination game. So, but that was a really fond memory. Probably one of the greatest weeks of my life playing footy. I was a young kid getting to play 3 games in a week, having a beer after every one of them as well together, and. No, that was great. Probably the next one, obviously, go through at 89. Minor premiers, we beat St George at Cogra to get the minor premiership. I think we won it by 5 points that year. We just had a year that we had a great bond in the team, and we just kept turning up for each other every week.
I remember that game at Cogra, and winning that game in the last round meant we'd won every away game for the season. Like, that's a big effort to win all your away games.
Absolutely, yeah. That's exciting.
And it's funny that year we weren't in front in every game. I can remember we were behind against Parramatta, we were behind against the Tigers at Leichhardt, and we were behind until the death against St George. But we just had remarkable faith in each other that we just had to keep going. And we talked about defence early in the show. Our defensively were magnificent, the team. And that obviously to get that minor premiership was one of the highlights. But the lowlight was we missed out. I'm sure Mavo will remind people of the charge down in the semi final. But anyway, apart from that, but. The other, the fourth moment for me, I have to take as not as a player, but obviously in 2014 when we won the comp. I mean, that goes without saying. We all loved that moment. It took so long to come, and it's pissing me off that it's taking so long to come again. But that's for us to change right now.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm disappointed about, LA, that in your top 4 wasn't the unbelievable hit you put on Michael Erickson playing against Parramatta. I think it was in 86 or 87, which I'm sure we can get the footage of for the video version of this on our website. It was like King Kong Bundy coming off the top rope in the World Championship Wrestling is a big crossbody just straight across the face. It was an unbelievable.
Well,
I think you're wearing jumper number 41 or 42, and you've just said, right, I'm making my way in first grade here. Smack, Michael Erickson.
Well, I didn't put it in, Jez. I didn't want to sound like a lair, but I was hoping you put it in there, mate.
LA told me the true story behind that big hit. He said he tripped over. Fell into Erickson.
Tell you what, he got some height for falling into him. I tell you, he collected him up around the melon. Shannon, what are your top 4 moments from your playing career?
Like Yellow, and probably I guess any player that's played NRL is their NRL debut. It was round 1, 1995, but it was funny. It was the biggest sense of deja vu. I think I've told this story on another part on Mavo's podcast. But from the time I was about 11, I started playing. I might have even been a bit younger. I was playing junior footy, and at school you used to get the schoolboys passes and go in, and they started having Monday night football at the SCG, and living in Woolloomooloo wasn't too far. So my older brother and I used to go up. My brother would take me with the passes, and it was the first time I remember I went to the footy, and I was absolutely hooked. And it was a South game, and I thought that's what I want to do when I get older. I just started playing footy, and I always had these. I'd lie in bed and just imagine myself playing first grade all the way up until I was 18 or 19 when I made my first grade debut. And I always used to, and the vision I had every time I imagined myself going on to play was walking down the tunnel at the football stadium. And I didn't even know it was a football stadium then. And honestly, I don't even know if the football stadium was built then, but it was sort of the vision I had for years and years to come. And then when I made my first grade debut, I was walking down the tunnel of the football stadium, and as you walk down the sort of incline, the grandstand on the other side opens up, and you see more and more of the grandstand. And I'd actually had that in my head for about 10 years. It was just like a dream type thing. And then when I actually made my first grade debut, that was the exact sort of scene I had. It was really bizarre, and it was just a great game. And it was against a star-studded Manly side. The Bozo coach had pretty much the whole Australian side. And we ended up getting beat, but, we were taking it up to Manly at halftime. I remember another guy on debut at that game was a guy named Craig Carrington. We're playing Manly. We're down about 14-8. No one gave us a chance. We're right in this game at halftime. And he's yelling out, "See, boys, they bleed just like us, Just hit them hard and, we'll knock the wind out of them just like us." And he's revved us all up as we're walking up the hill. And I'm Manly were obviously listening because the score ended up 42-18. The second half, they ran away with it.
It's funny you talk about as a kid. I mean, I had a similar episode with the Sydney Cricket Ground. Obviously, when I was growing up, a bit younger than you, that was the base for all the big games. And I used to go there with my family and my brother and that and watch all the match of the day there on a Saturday. And I used to just, all I wanted to do was come down the steps of the members stand and run onto that cricket ground.
Yep.
And going back to 84 and that period, we played twice there in 1 week, and it was just magnificent memories. And when you get there, it's because you thought about it many, many years ago. It wasn't just something that sort of popped up on the night. So sorry for jumping in, mate, but
no. I'm going to jump in too. Like the SCG, it's an amazing arena. Like, it's terrible to watch footy at. There's no ifs or buts about that because of the shape of the ground, the size of the ground, how far away you are. It's not made for footy, but I've been lucky enough to do a bit of work in cricket over the past 7 or 8 years, and this year I do some ground announcing for the Sydney Thunder and occasionally with the Sydney Sixers. So I've had the chance to work at the SCG with the Rabbitohs and the Sixers a few times, but this year I got the chance to ground announce the Sydney Test match, and that was just amazing. Like, you could just feel the aura around that stadium that day, and it wasn't a full crowd because of COVID restrictions or anything like that, but just to be a part of those 5 days against some great opposition and everything that was going on in that test series, it was just phenomenal to be a part of it. And I remember saying to Ello beforehand, because I told him I got the gig and he congratulated me, and I said, I feel like I'm representing my country.
Yeah.
Like, it's that
historic venue.
Exactly. It's just got that aura about it. And when you walk into those old change rooms with all the names on the wall, and you think footy-wise, this is where Clive Churchill played so many games and where those famous Dragons teams won their 11 premierships and all those premierships that the Rabbitohs players won. But then you think about the Bradmans and Warney and Glenn McGrath and all these guys that considered that place home every summer, and the joy that they gave you as a kid or as a young man watching them play cricket. It all came flooding back to me when I got the chance to work at that Test match. It was phenomenal.
It's funny you say that about how you felt like you're doing it for Australia. And
Yeah.
We in 14 we had Mike Whitney come in. We played Manly at the SCG about 8 rounds short of the playoffs, and he came in and just spoke to the boys. He went for about 30 minutes, and they didn't take their eyes off him. And he's a great storyteller, Mike Whitney. But this was fact. This wasn't storytelling. And he spoke about the dressing room where, Steve Waugh used to sit and Alan Border and guys like that. And inside the dressing room there, the home dressing room, there's just an outline in black texture of the Sheffield Shield. And it was just a tradition there when they won it. They do an outline of it, and everyone that played in the game signed it. So he was up there 3 times in that with those shields. And he said when he was bowling, particularly in the one day, as the day nighters back then when they first came in, he said he'd get to the end of his mark and he'd just, he'd be bowling the first ball of the session, and he said he could just hear the crowd behind him. He just said, I've got the whole of Australia behind me, and he said it just lifted me so much. So
Yeah.
And the other big thing he said to the players was amazing. He said, all he did in cricket, playing for Australia, and his feats and that, he said he'd have swapped it all to wear us our Sydney jersey.
It's amazing.
I reckon we need to try and get Wits in here one morning and record this with us. I reckon he'd be a good laugh. He'd have some good yarns.
Yeah.
And it's interesting we talk about the SCG like that, but I get a similar feeling and how lucky we are to play out there at Stadium Australia. You think about what's happened out there, like the 2000 Olympics, Kathy Freeman's gold medal, and I walked down the tunnel there, and I think I walked down this tunnel in the 2014 Grand Final day, and I held the trophy up in this change room where I'm grabbing guys for pre-game interviews and stuff like that. You can't take those things for granted, I think, because so many of the people listening to us today would love to have the opportunity just to see down there in the sheds and walk around downstairs. And you think about what's gone on down there, even some of the big concerts, like I've seen U2 play at that stadium and AC/DC, and they've walked the same halls that we get to walk every second weekend at Stadium Australia. It's the Kathy Freeman stuff, especially for me, and going back to 2014 when she came to our captain's run, and she said after the game, there's a famous photo of her and Greg Inglis sitting in Greg's locker after the game with the trophy, and she said that this is the greatest sporting moment I've been involved in at this stadium.
Yeah.
And that I'm getting a chill down my spine now thinking about what she achieved, winning that 200-metre gold. She also lit the flame in front of billions of people all around the world. But us winning that comp and sitting there with Greg and the trophy after the game, she said that was the greatest sporting moment she'd been involved in. It gives me chills that we're all so fortunate to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I think that highlights the beauty of team sport, though, too, Jess.
It does.
I mean, being an individual, what a great achievement from Kathy. Whole country behind her, but I suppose there's some time you walk off that stadium and you go back in the dressing room. You've got your family and that there, which would be great, but it just you go back with success in any team sport, and you've got everyone around to celebrate it with. It's I think it'd be different than individual sport,
Yeah.
And the other thing about it, that camaraderie that you build out there, playing footy, putting your body on the line for your mates, and when you're injured, just taking that head up that's funny because, you mightn't see those guys for 20 years, but it's like you caught up with them yesterday, and it builds a bond and memories, of course, that you have for the rest of your life.
Yeah, I talk about taking things for granted. Like there's not many people that you meet now that sort of you're in awe of and take you back, because we do have the opportunity to see people like Russell Crowe down at training and all the famous people that we've met through him, and getting to work with superstars like Greg and people like Benji now and Sam over the years, and that's sort of the novelty rubs off a bit. But I'll never forget the captain's run before the 2014 Grand Final on that Saturday afternoon. I got there nice and early, walked inside. Because we were trying to control the cameras and everything around the ground. I walked downstairs and walked into Madge's office to say good day, and I've just walked in, and there's Kathy Freeman standing there, and I'm like, wow, this is a special moment, you know. There's someone like an icon, a sporting icon of this country like Kathy Freeman is here to speak to our team. It hit me then. It hit me. It was very good to be a part of.
Yeah, that might be another topic down the track, Jez. We can have a talk about one of the episodes about Kathy Freeman and what she said and things like that.
That'd be fantastic.
It was fan. Yeah. I don't think we got the time today, but we maybe go into that down the track.
Sounds great. We can look forward to that. I think you got 3 more moments to go.
Sorry, that's okay. You know, in my career, it was hard to find top 4, to be honest. Top 4 moments.
I thought it might have something to do with the party pies after the game.
The crunchy hot dogs. The other one is, being a South junior, you brought up that rivalry with the Roosters, and only just behind that is a rivalry with Manly. And having been beaten at Brookvale a number of times when playing for the Rabbitohs, I played out there in a game. It wasn't for South, but it felt just as good. We were playing at Brookvale, and I was playing for the Panthers in round 26, 2002, and we beat them 68 to 28. And the score was 44-6 at a half-time, and it was just one of those games where they kick off and we'd score, we'd kick off and score. And I was thinking that day about all the beltings I'd copped, and the belting I copped on my debut where we got beat 42-18, and to beat them, to put 68 points on them that day was absolutely amazing. So that was definitely a highlight. Another one was the qualifying final in 2003, again with the Panthers, but it was to put us in the grand final. The year before, I think we just avoided the wooden spoon, and there was a sense by all the experts that we weren't a good enough side to go on and win it, and we're just fluking our wins, and so when we got to the final was when the blowtorch was on us, and the Broncos were a really strong side, and it was the qualifying final, and I got called into the side. I'd sort of been on the bench or the extended bench as the 18th man through the year, but I actually got called into the run-on for the game because Luke Prittis got busted, and we beat them 28-18. But the funny thing was, I broke my hand making a tackle on Shane Webke about 10 minutes into the match, and we didn't have an interchange hooker, and I realised we didn't have an interchange hooker, and I had to play, and I could feel the bone in my hand clicking, and I could see it. It wasn't through the skin, but I could see it risen, and I got the needle at halftime, thank God, because it was hurting a fair bit. But just to be able to get through that game and prove that we could win those big games, and then went on to the grand final and win it, was an amazing moment. So that qualifying final for me, I played in. I didn't get to play in the grand final, unfortunately. Luke Prittis did score 2 tries and set up the third when they won 18-6, but I still think I was hard done by.
Was that the game where you tried to sledge Gordy that you told us about last week?
I think it might have been, actually, yeah. Yes. Who is this guy? Get me a big league program.
If you missed that story, go back and have a listen to last week's episode. Very funny. Yes. Very good.
And my final one, it's not a famous win, but it's one that has a lot of sentimental value to me, and it was round 9 in 1995. I was playing for the Rabbitohs versus the Tigers, and we're having a bit of a clunky year that year. I guess that's a good euphemism, clunky. We'd sort of played some good footy, some bad footy, and probably should have won a lot more games than we did. But anyway, playing the Tigers, and for some reason they're playing out of Parramatta Stadium at that stage. I think they might have been doing renos at one of their grounds or something. But it was a tough game, and it was 18-all, and with about 3 or 4 minutes to go, I scored a try that put us 6 in front, and then right on the bell we kicked the field goal, and we won 25-18. But it was my try, and I didn't score many tries. It was my try that sort of put us in front, and I won't say won us the game, but he gave us the 6 points. And then, but my dad didn't come out to many games, but my dad, for whatever reason, him and a mate came out to that game, and my dad was a pretty stoic old guy, old sort of labourer and tough old man, didn't have too many words, but went back to the club afterwards, and I took them back to the club at Redfern, and my old man said when my dad went up to get the drinks at one stage, he said, your old man, he actually welled up when you scored that try. And I thought, because Dad never showed much emotion, and I just thought what a nice moment for my dad to be there when I scored a try, because God knows I don't score many. Happened to score the match winner, so yeah, that was a really nice moment for me personally. So they're my 4 moments, Jez. What about your 4 top moments as an NRL player, Jez?
Well, we'll kick it off. What about the 12 tries I scored against the Roosters last year in the 16-8 win? Mightn't say that in the record books, but I felt like I scored every one of them. I think I kicked 10 as well. Thank you, Reno.
You blew about 10 speakers out that night. You were that excited.
That is one of my highlights, I've got to say.
Tell the story.
Win Stadium. It was the Charity Shield. I think it might have been in 2014 when I got moved down to Win. And the Dragons and us used to both have a ground announcer there because it's a shared game, and we'd try and rev each other's crowds up. And the events manager at the Dragons, name's Amy Luggan, absolute professional, absolute champion of a person. She does a great job down there at the Dragons. But she'd had the weekend off to go to a wedding. So she's at this wedding, and the next thing she tells me, her phone just starts blowing up in the middle of the ceremony. So she's trying to be there for a friend, watch a friend get married, and the phone starts blowing up about the audio system going down. Now, one of the names I used to love saying when I was announcing the team was Isaac Luke. Number 9.
Give us one, Jess. Give us one.
I don't want to break the roadcaster. I don't want to break
just control yourself when you do it.
I used to just give it everything I had. And anyway, in the middle of my announcing, it was number 9, Isaac. It just cut out. I blew the speakers at Win Stadium. I have since broken the microphone at the SCG. I've blown that one out. You should see the size of the microphone they've got at the SCG now because of what I did there. And Bankwest Stadium last year in COVID, I also blew the speakers there. They had to amp their system back up, and that's a brand new stadium. So they're my top 3 moments.
There you go. Quite memorable too, Jess.
And the Australian cricket test.
And then the test match. There you go. Yeah. Very good. Well, I enjoyed those stories. It was good, and a good chat about the stadiums too, I think. It's, to me, I've done a few tours of different stadiums around the world, and mates of mine say, well, what do you care? It's just a building, but it's the emotions that are shown within those walls. You don't get that anywhere else in the world than in a sporting stadium.
Yeah, I agree. I'm actually a sports tourist myself. One of the first things I do when I go to a city overseas, and hopefully we can all be doing that again shortly, but is go to a sporting event and go to the stadium. I remember in Barcelona, I went up to Camp Nou, and that was an amazing facility up there. Not just a soccer ground, but they've got indoor European handball. They've got the Barcelona FC basketball. Just, yeah, it's fantastic to go, and you really get a sense of the people and the culture by going to their sporting arenas.
Yeah. Ello, when we went to the World Club Challenge, did you come to Manchester City's?
No,
that was amazing. We didn't go to their home ground. We went to their training facility, and I've never seen anything like it. So it had its own hotel where the team would stay the night before the game, and every player had their own 5-star suite to sleep in. As far as I know, I'm not a big soccer fan, but I think there's 11 blokes on the field at any one time, but they had 18 training fields.
Yeah.
more than one per player.
Yeah.
There were indoor fields, there were outdoor fields, depending on what the weather was like, because they're up in the northern parts of England. They had a swimming pool there that had a treadmill built into it. I'd never seen anything like it before for player recovery. I'd seen our hot box that we've got at Redfern Oval with the treadmills and stuff like that in there, but altitude rooms and stuff like that. But I'd never seen a treadmill built into a swimming pool that could rise up and down so it could build or lower the resistance depending on what part of the rehab the player was in. It was opulence at its absolute max. I'd never seen anything like it, and that really comes as no surprise the success that they've had in recent year. Well, I think they've had in recent years. I remember a lot of talk about Manchester City at one stage. I'm not a big soccer fan, but it always used to be Manchester United that seemed to win everything, and Manchester City came through, and I thought, well, they'd want to be winning some titles with the facilities they had. So, LA, no pressure when we move into Heffron Park.
No. Just going back there, Jess, talking about the tradition of the cricket ground, which in my year growing up as a kid, that was where all the big games were played in cricket and in rugby league. And over in England, all the big games were played at Wembley. And the old Wembley Stadium, I got a chance to go there. I played in England in 91. Broke my arm, so I had about 10 weeks off. So I was ducked down to London for 2 weeks, Ray and I, and she had a girlfriend of hers was working for Qantas, so she flew in, and I knew she didn't want to go to see Wembley, so they went out for lunch, and I just got on the train and went out there, and one of the great memories of my time. I loved always, because as a kid you'd get up and you'd watch your FA Cup finals there, you'd watch the tests, you'd watch the Challenge Cup final, and then of course the Live Aid concert, Queen and Freddie Mercury at their best at that. I mean, and just seeing clips of that with the crowd that was there was just amazing. I mean, obviously there was no crowd there the day I was there, but I got there late. It was a funny story. The guy on the desk wasn't. There's a woman on the desk that wasn't going to let me in because I was after the tour, and I played off. Come from Australia, I broke my arm, feeling sorry for myself. And anyway, this old bloke came over and said, "Come on, mate, I'll take you through." So I was really lucky, and so I had a personal tour of Wembley down the dressing rooms, and when you come out onto the field, They put all the crowd noise through the speakers and that, so it feels like you're there, and it's just an amazing. And then there's footage of the dress as you're walking. There's footage in the dressing room with all the flags and the songs and that. It's just remarkable experience. And I would have loved to get there to watch a game. I never did. And obviously, it's not there anymore. But they hold, for people different eras. The stadiums, the big sporting arenas for people that love sport, just hold a place in people's hearts.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a great chat. That might be another top 4 topic for us down the track stadiums that we've been to and experienced, because, as I say, you don't get emotions like it in any other building around the world, and it does evoke a lot of emotion. So very good. We'll be back in.
Sometimes at Maroubra McDonald's, I get a bit emotional.
As we just review the McDonald's sponsorship, that is emotion. There's emotion pouring out of you right there. Yeah. How many bags were there? 60?
I don't know, and I don't even know what the others ate, but it was a fantastic lunch for me. I really enjoyed it.
Most people say I played 16 times on the SCG. He's been to Maroubra McDonald's about 473 times.
Just supporting those that support the Rabbitohs. Hello, that's doing a good job.
Exactly.
Well done, Ronald. We'll be back in a sec. Speaking of emotional places, the Rabbitohs merchandise store down at Heffron Park Tennis Centre at the moment on Bunnerong Road in Maroubra. It's always great to go and check out all the new gear that's down there, and I know all the new 2021 Classic gear has come in. So if you're looking for a jersey or a polo shirt, a T-shirt, hats, flags, anything that you can think of, make sure you head down there and see the boys, and they'll be able to sort you right out. And if you can't get down to Maroubra, down to Heffron Park, make sure you shop online at shop.rabbitohs.com.au. But I remember as a young kid, one of the best things was on your birthday or at Christmas was opening a present. It was a new Rabbitohs jersey inside, and I assume it's still the same now. I remember my daughter when the club was giving the kids the jerseys at the Christmas party. My daughter got one. You just saw her eyes light up, and it's that sort of joy that you like to see when people get to wear the red and green themselves.
Absolutely. I think, our kit, our jersey in particular, has got such history about it. Unlike most other clubs, we've stayed with a pretty much traditional design, and there's so much behind it. But we've also got the new hoodies in jerseys, which are proving very popular. But in terms of the jerseys, one of the things we did this year to thank our members was we had the thank you jerseys for all those members that pledged and had their names on them. Obviously, the boys played in those.
It was magnificent.
Round one to Storm, and lots of members had the opportunity to buy those, and we'll be playing in the home ones in round 3 at our first home game. So I think there might be only a couple spare ones lying around there. So if you get down to the merchandise store at Heffron Park very quick, you might get one or two of the last ones in the store.
Now, I think people were able to buy them by auction, weren't they, after the game? The player-worn versions?
They were, Jez, and they're available right up until 4 p.m. on Thursday, actually, after the Storm game. And we'll be also auctioning the home jerseys with the thank you jerseys, the player-worn jerseys, after the Roosters game in round 3. So just go on to shop.rabbitohs, click on the auction tab, and you'll see the player-worn jerseys auction there. And if you remember who pledged last year, your name will be on it.
It's fantastic.
I must say, across the clubs in the game too, our merchandise is mad. It's just tremendous.
Yeah.
Some of the different, the hoodies, the tracksuit tops, the T-shirts and that are out there, even the caps.
Mm.
We've come so far in that area, and it's just such a range that just suits all ages.
Yeah.
We've done a great job with it.
Yeah, and Russell's been so hands-on with all of the designs. Back in the day, it's hard to remember. It was a while ago, but it used to be just all team rugby. All you could get was the jersey, but now you can get, you can get hoodies, you can get streetwear, you can get sort of discreetly, not sponsor stuff all over it. There's a huge range for a fan and even just somebody who likes good apparel.
I must say too, when you look at, they always say about the random Rabbitoh in all the, but you see someone, I know if I go to the shops or something, I see someone with a Rabbitoh cap on or a Rabbitoh gear, and I might not even know them, but you sort of, say hello to them as you walk past, because we're all one, and it's great getting that rabbit out there, and it's definitely one of the iconic brands in the game.
Yeah.
You're right. When you see it, it reminds me of, I'm not a Mason, but the Mason's the secret handshake. It's sort of when you see somebody with Rabbitohs kit, you
just a little nod.
A nod or a wink or something like I like it, and you're right. We're everywhere. I reckon I see more Rabbitohs kit down Bondi than I do Roosters, but that's understandable.
I must say I get more nods when we win.
Yeah. It's interesting you talk about the range of stuff. When I was the merchandise manager first time around back in 02 and 03, we could not keep in stock salt and pepper shakers.
Is that right?
Rabbitohs salt and pepper shakers. And I think it's because they were relatively inexpensive. They were about $10 or $11, and people would come in and check everything out, and they'd go, "Oh, Uncle Bill's a mad Rabbitohs fan. Let's grab him something while we're here. Oh, we'll grab him some salt and pepper shakers. He won't have those."
Yeah.
We just couldn't keep them in stock. It was amazing.
And it's something you use every day.
That's it.
So every day you're going to see the rabbit out there. So that might have something to do with it too.
Some of us more than others.
I was going to say we're big eaters here at the Rabbitohs.
That was our least challenging merchandise item to sell. And the most challenging was the 12,000 TV week jerseys that we had.
That's another episode too.
Very good. All right, we'll be back in a second. Our next top 4 topic is the top 4 players who were good at other sports. Now, that might be guys you've played with, or it might be yourself. You never know. So let's start with you, Shannon, I think. Let's go through your top 4 players that were good at other sports.
Well, the South legend, triple international, Mike Cleary has to be there, of course. Played rugby
I've only got 3 left now, Jez.
Me too. He was my number one.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got in first.
Can I go first next week, Jez?
There's not many triple internationals. There's not many of us around, but seriously though, Mike Cleary to play for the Wallabies, the Kangaroos, and got a bronze medal in the 1962 Commonwealth Games in Perth. Just an absolute phenomenon, and also was successful outside of football too. A politician, a sports commentator. Mike's done just about everything there is to do in sport, and so he absolutely had to be my number one. Number 2 is another Rabbitoh, and that's a current Rabbitoh actually, Benji Marshall. He played for Australian schoolboys, but he also played for Australian touch footy in 2003. Great touch footy player, and also played rugby union, played Super Rugby, played for the Blues. So he's good at rugby, good at touch football, and obviously a sensational league player, and steadied the ship for us on Thursday night down there in Melbourne. So had to go for Benji, one of Rabbitoh's favourite sons.
Speaking of Benji and his touch footy, our head physiotherapist Eddie Farah was quite a good touch footballer as well, and he on the team WhatsApp the other day put a photo up of him playing with a 17-year-old Benji for Western Suburbs in the national titles many moons ago, and was telling us how he taught Benji everything he knows about touch football and rugby league, and we were all amazed that they let a 38-year-old man play with a 17-year-old man at that stage.
I was going to say, you said Eddie was pretty good at it. I think it was the fact that he played next to Benji that made Eddie pretty good at it. I bet you did his hamstring a few times when he was playing too.
Not with those extended warm-ups he does that way.
I bet he actually did his hair a few times in his
Excellent. Let me just timestamp this. It's about 39 and a half minutes in. We'll let Eddie know that's where he should listen to the podcast from.
Great man, the great Eddie.
The great Farah.
Yeah.
Number 3 is another Kiwi, Brad Thorne. He just, he won so many grand finals with the Broncos and Super Rugby, played for Australian Rugby League, played for the All Blacks, had an unbelievable longevity to his career, played for over a decade, had the pleasure of playing against Brad. Thoroughly decent fella off the field. As I said a couple of episodes ago, the genuine tough guy who was but a gentleman off the field, quite devout in his faith and a good guy, but just a great athlete that was, super at rugby league and super at rugby. And then the 4th is a good mate of mine, the Cunnamulla fella, as he likes to call himself, and that's the great Billy Johnson. People talk about Paul Gallen and his boxing now, but the original was Billy Johnson. He was tough. He was, and still is tough. He's 61 now and he'd be fitter than most NRL players. He was the trainer for the Queensland Origin, and he was trainer for Australia at one stage. But he was not only a great rugby league player, but he was a great boxer. He had 21 wins out of 27 fights and a couple of draws in there, I think. But really, really good boxer, really good all-round athlete, and certainly a tough footy player. Not as tough as our Murray, but certainly a great all-rounder. So they're my top 4 players who are good at multi-sports, Jez.
Very good. Ello, what are your nominations apart from Mike Cleary?
Mike Cleary. Well, Steve Maven. I've known Steve for a long, long time. We used to do swimming training together as kids at Botany Pool back in the day. I don't know. Steve he's a few years younger than me, but Steve came through, through the school system and was one of the top. He had records in the state swimming and state athletics. He was a really gun sportsman as a kid going through, and obviously went on a great footballer too. Went on and played many, many games for the club and had a really distinguished career. He loves the place too. As we know, May have been doing a great job on the podcast. But
and he can talk for Australia.
He can talk for Australia. But no, I got to say, I don't know a lot of people know that, but he was outstanding in both athletics and swimming. He's coming through. The other one that was just a real freak was Bronco Tajura. I mean, you talk to Billy Anderson, who used to coach at South. He's really into his cricket as well. He often said that the Bronco was just such a good cricketer. He's probably obviously a better cricketer than he's a great footballer too, don't get me wrong, but he played for Australian schoolboys. He was a wicketkeeper batsman. And I think he just came into the system. He just loved the camaraderie with the football. He loved it here at South. But he was one of the best at his age group, so he could have gone and obviously represented Australia. And to be fair, I think he was in ahead of Ian Healy at the time in the schoolboys cricketing.
Wow.
As a wicketkeeper. Don't quote me on that, but I think
you're quoted, Ello.
I think
you've said it yourself.
Right.
That's in the roadcaster. That's out there. That's out there.
Bronco, a case of Furfies will do, mate.
Ian Healy, never heard of him.
No, actually, I prefer young Henrys anyway.
You get sick of other stuff, Ella.
Yeah. So, yeah, he was very good. Mario used to love his golf off the field. He didn't break any records with it, but still plays today and just very passionate as he was with his sport here. And we used to have a hit together back in the day. And, I know he still plays out at St Michael's now. He's a member out there and really enjoys it. And I've just had to come up with the 4th one because you stole Mike Cleary. And it's Mark Block Lyons, who's our doorman today, and used to play back in '89 with us in that great team. Not many people know he's the Australian jelly wrestling champion.
Is he?
He doesn't
Any
know
particular
himself.
flavour? Any particular flavour?
He doesn't know it himself, but he's become that today.
Very good. I tell you what. If ever I was forced to take part in jelly wrestling competition, the last man I'd want to take on is Block.
I just imagine him in his budgies and that he'd warm the jelly up because he didn't like the water too cold. Oh. Anyway, and before he jumped in, he used to talk about how sore his back and his knee was every week. He's got all that fixed now, so there you go. Shout out the Block.
Very good. A point I wanted to make was it's interesting that I can understand the relationship between someone playing high-level rugby league and high-level rugby union, both being rugby football codes, but it's quite interesting the number of players that have done well in cricket and rugby league because they're completely different skill sets. You mentioned Bronco de Jura. There's also Graham Hughes that played for New South Wales, played Sheffield Shield. And from another sport, I think Shane Warne played VFL football for St Kilda. And to me, I can understand a cricketer being good at golf. They're the similar skill sets, but playing football compared to cricket seems to be completely different.
Yeah, I played cricket, at a reasonable level too when I was young. But I think it stems back to the era too, because when in my era as a kid, you played rugby league in the winter and you played cricket in the summer, or you surfed. And the overlap was swimming. If you're a good swimmer, you could train summer and winter, or you just train in the summer. And I think nowadays there's so many different options for sports that they go to, like you got basketball and gymnastics. You got so many different sporting things that the kids can do, and that may be it. But I don't know. There's still that bit of hand-eye stuff. But it's funny, cricket. People say it's a team game, but when you look at it, it's more an individual.
Oh, big, especially for a batsman.
Yeah, that's right. So that's where it's a bit different. And I think that might have been the reason I go back to Bronco again. That he liked the rugby league more. Yeah. Cricket was a game when you played it as a kid too. You just, to become a good batsman, you didn't want to get out because you had to sit there for 3 hours and watch your mates bat. So that was
My son played cricket for about 4 years, from times about 8 to 12, and happiest day was when he came home. He said, "I don't want to play anymore." That's fine by me, Joe.
Did you say, your mother will love you for that, mate? Alex Johnson was a good cricketer, and Nathan Brown, that's at the Eels now, former Rabbitohs player, he was also a good cricketer. And then you got someone like, you mentioned the team sport versus individual sport, Liam Knight, who I'm hoping to get onto our show one week. He's a crack up. He's a good fella, but
just ask him.
Well, he's actually very humble about his sporting achievements. He was quite a good junior tennis player, and I think he used to play at the level in the juniors of Nick Kyrgios and stuff like that. I've heard him tell the story that he was playing against Nick Kyrgios in some junior tournaments. So he must have been a handy tennis player to be qualifying for those sorts of tournaments as a kid. So it's interesting. You talk about the difference between team sports and individual sports. I think you're right. The camaraderie that you develop within a team sport. And I'm trying to do that now with my daughter. She's 5 years old, and we've got her playing soccer this year. I was hoping to get her into junior league, but she said, "Daddy, is there a sport I can play where they don't throw me on the ground?" I said, "At under sixes, they don't throw you on the ground, sweetheart. But yeah, we could try soccer." But just for that team sport, being part of a team, she's an only child, so she doesn't get that amongst brothers and sisters at home. I think it's really important for kids, and as you say, going up through your sporting career, to be playing in a team has that different, emotional touch when you achieve something with your mates. It's a lot more powerful than achieving something on your own, I think.
Yeah. Well, it would be. I mean, I haven't achieved much as just on my own in sport. It's always been in a team environment. So, but I couldn't. It'd be a great feeling knowing you're the best in the world.
Oh yeah.
But celebrating would be probably a little bit different. Although, the tennis players and the golfers probably handle it all right. I'm sure Tiger and Greg Norman and they got on. Particularly Tiger.
What's it like, Shannon, being the best in the world at shout out to McDonald's.
I'm the ultimate natural, Jez. Just gifted. What can I say?
I tell you who else was a great cricketer, Greg Inglis. And a good swimmer too. Greg, as a schoolboy, I know Greg scored a double century.
Wow.
Playing cricket. So,
That is concentration and patience, isn't it? to be able to stay out there for a double century.
We could
It's
hit ball
amazing.
that far as a kid. I mean, they used to give him 12 when he hit it over the rope because he'd put it into the next park. They had to run across the road to get it.
He was playing in Barraville, the ball would end up in
That's
Kempsey.
right.
Well, I've done a quick little one myself here. We'll take Mike Cleary out because Shannon stole my thunder, and you mentioned Greg Inglis. I've
Sorry,
got Greg
mate.
Inglis on my list now. Greggy and the club doctor, Andrew McDonald, took down myself and Luke Keary in the grand final of the 2015 World Club Challenge Table Tennis Doubles Championships over in Leeds in February 2015 up in the north of England. Greggy's arm span, you could not get anything by him. It was just freakish. He'd just stand in the middle of the court and he'd reach things 3 metres either side of him. It was just absolutely amazing. Number 3 on my list, number 1 was Mike Cleary, but number 3 I had was Damien Cook. Now, everyone knows him as the beach sprint champion as a youngster.
Was he a beach sprinter? Was
Yeah,
he?
apparently so, yeah. I haven't heard many people mention it, particularly Damien, but he was also a champion at wood chopping at the Sydney Royal Easter Show. I don't know if many people know that. Even though he's quite small, he used to get out there with those big 6'10" blokes with their big handlebar moustaches, and Cookie be flying up and down the pole and chopping them down. He was an absolute champion at wood chopping, and I reckon I haven't tricked Ello, but I reckon I've sucked Shannon in.
I was going to say, did they have a cherry picker next to them?
I was going to say, that's amazing. Hook, line, and sinker.
He even did it with 5 show bags on each arm. It was amazing.
I wouldn't have known. I was in the food court. So
The old Dagwood dog at the Easter show.
Oh, and my final one, I'm going to be self-indulgent. It's me. 1988 was an unbelievable year for me. I was in Year 6 at Connells Point Public School. I was the captain of our cricket team. I was also the anchor in the tug-of-war team for the St George Regional team. And I won the singles championships at the Vic Reynolds Tennis Camp in the September school holidays, which was amazing for me. So 1988, that was my sporting nadir. It was unbelievable. 11 years old.
fantastic, Jez, winning all those primary school awards when you're 24. Fantastic.
He's got a few pennants too back there. I must
He's
say,
competing again this year.
I think we might all be the anchor in a tug of war these days.
With a 3-way battle.
We're the anchor in the Queen Mary.
Excellent. Well, that was good fun. We'll be back in a moment. Now, we've talked about this a few times in the last few weeks, and it's Rabbitohs Plus. It's a new initiative from the Rabbitohs where they provide everyday services that members and supporters use each day, such as mobile phone plans, travel deals, home and contents insurance, credit cards, car insurance, home loans, all those sorts of things that can help you and your family. Rabbitohs Plus can offer those to you. So if you want to learn more about that, head to plus.rabbitohs.com.au, and I'm actually in the market for a new phone plan at the moment, so I'm going to check out what's on offer there from Rabbitohs Plus and see how it compares.
So am I, Jed.
Well, both of you get on there. They're excellent plans. They start from as low as $15 a month in prepaid plans. So encourage not only you guys but all of our members to get on board too.
Very good. That's Rabbitohs Plus at plus.rabbitohs.com.au. Now, our trivia question from last week. John Sutton is the most capped first-grade player in South Sydney's history. He played 336 first-grade games. Just blows my mind, the longevity of the man. But who was second on the list? Now, he played 218 first-grade games. I think this might trick a few people because there was someone that was top of our list for a long time in Bob McCarthy, but he's not number 2 on the list anymore. So I think we may have tricked Shannon. He may not have done his homework.
You got me.
At detention again this week, Shannon.
Got to use that Google search engine a bit more.
Just go to rabbitohs.com.au, mate. It's all on there.
Of course.
But so who do you think's number 2?
Our little cheeky halfback?
Soon.
Okay.
Soon. He's on 207 games, I think.
Well, I'm not going to
Renault.
display my ignorance anymore. I'm going to guess hand over to the guru here.
I'm going to say the great Nathan Merritt.
It is the great Nathan Merritt. So it was
and I
quite
didn't even research that. Not give myself a rap. I didn't research
Not
that.
giving yourself a rap. A very good impersonation of someone who is.
I was waiting for Jez to do it. The reason I know it, I remember Sutto broke the record of Bob McCarthy in 2013 at the cricket ground, and Nathan wasn't that far behind and played into 214 as well.
Yeah,
that's
they were actually neck and neck the whole way through, and we were all gearing up for the celebration of Sutto for breaking the record, and Sutto got hurt a couple of weeks before, and I thought, what are we going to do here? Like, if Sutto's out for 4 weeks, I think it was 2 weeks away from the record. If he's out for 4 weeks, Merrow becomes the number one. So we had to start preparing all the stuff for Nathan Merritt because we had all the videos and everything sorted for Sutto, and we had to scramble and try and drag out all of Merrow's 3,000 tries that he'd scored and start putting them together to celebrate him in case he got there in front of Sutto. But I think Sutto might have missed one game and came back and he was in front. And then when Nath retired from NRL footy at the end of 15, end of 15, Sutto just took off, kept going, and was 100-odd games in front. So
one of my great memories of Nathan Merritt was he played. We played on a Monday night against the Eels at ANZ Stadium. He scored 5 tries. Yeah, and then we went to Canberra on the Saturday, and he scored 3 tries.
Scored 3 more.
So he scored 8 tries in 5 days.
Amazing.
You know,
I scored in 11 years.
That's right. About you at a Big Mac City.
Speaking
I'm going to stop doing that, mate. It's not funny.
Good plug for you.
It's not funny anymore, is it? Is it, Jez? It's pretty funny.
No, not funny. Not funny. Speaking of Merrow against Parramatta, do you remember that try that he scored down the? I think it was Jeremy Smith might have thrown actually someone chip kicked across to the left wing and Merrow took it, and then he chip kicked for himself over the top of Joel Reddy and scored a try. He ran out of the field, came back in and scored just inside the corner post. It was just Nathan Merritt magic at his best.
Nathan Merritt was not, we all put him down as the great try scorer. He was one of the most skillful footballers that's played at this club.
Absolutely. There was talk of him playing 5'8" at one stage.
He knew football, and the reason why he scored so many tries, he would turn up where the ball was. He didn't just wait out on the wing waiting for the ball. He would support through the middle of the field. He'd follow a kick through, and he just had an innate ability to know where the football was going to be.
Yep.
And he back in that era when we were really struggling, it was just get the ball to Sutto or Merrow. That was about what we had in attack, and nothing against the players that were there, but we were struggling to attract players to the club when we weren't going as well, but him and Sutto, and it's amazing that they're top of our list of players, and it's a tribute to both of them how much they've contributed to this club.
Hello, you were saying about back then because Sutto was so good and Merrow was so good. The motto was get the ball to Sutto or get the ball to Merrow. When I was playing, it was keep the ball away from Donato. It was hard because I was the dummy half.
I was going to say. Dummy half. And the mousetrap plays all day.
Explains all those reserve grade games, I suppose. Actually, 53rd most capped reserve grade player for the Rabbitohs. You must know.
Very good. Now, our trivia question for this week. The South Sydney Dream Team was announced in 2004. Who was named captain and who was named coach of that team? Now, the hint this week is they're actually different people. So it wasn't a captain coach like the great Jack Rayner was one of the great captain coaches at this club. And you've got players like Clive Churchill that had immense success as players and coaches. So it is actually 2 different people. But who was named captain and who was named coach?
He's throwing us off the sense.
It's time to do your homework. So, yes, we'll give you the answer to that one next week. But I'm enjoying these these trivia questions. I'm enjoying you blokes not doing your homework. So it's very good.
What do you mean? I just got Nathan Merritt, didn't I?
Yeah, but you said you didn't even do any homework. You just knew it.
That's right.
Yeah, it's good, man. That's what I like to see.
Give yourself a wrap on the way through.
That's right. Thanks,
Shannon,
mate.
you got a bit of work to redeem yourself after that one. And there's a little segment coming up where you possibly could, but we'll be back in a second. Now, of course, our Top 4 podcasts, and in fact the whole Rabbitohs podcast network, is proudly brought to you by the great people at What If. And if you're looking for your next epic holiday, maybe a long weekend with your mates, or you want to get to our next travel game, then it's time to What If it. What If has great deals on accommodation, flights, car hire, and more. And because they're the official travel partner of the South Sydney Rabbitohs, you can head to whatif.com/Rabbitohs. That's whatif.com/Rabbitohs and use the promo code Rabbitohs15 to save 15% on select hotels. Now, conditions apply with that, but that's an absolute cracking bargain if you're looking to get away during the season or to come to one of the games throughout the year. And I noted that the NRL are starting to push Magic round, so it might be up in Brisbane, so it might be a good opportunity for our members and supporters to jump on What If and book themselves some accommodation, try and get the 15% off using Rabbitohs15 on whatif.com/Rabbitohs and get their flights nice and early.
Absolutely. Your Magic weekend's always a lot of fun, and we're just about to go on sale for Dubbo as well, Jez. So if you want to fly out there and book your accommodation through What If as well, and also we take a home game to the Sunshine Coast. We've got over 3,500 members in Southeast Queensland. We go up there and service those, and for all of our other members from right around Australia and New South Wales to fly up there, I encourage them to go to whatif.com/Rabbitohs and get that 15% discount from our great sponsors at What If.
I'm really looking forward to that game in Dubbo at Apex Oval. When I was playing in my rugby union career at university, the mighty CSU Bathurst took on the Dubbo Old Boys Rhinos out at Apex Oval, and I scored my only try in rugby union out there at Apex Oval.
Was that another one where you tripped into it, or was it tripped over?
I was seagulling out in the centres, and I found the ball in my hands about 15 metres out. I looked at the winger who had no one in front of him. I said, "You're not getting this ball, mate."
I got told I was in the warm-up.
It was 5 metres out, and he still nearly got run down.
I've got to talk to What If about booking tours of Apex Oval, which I'll lead while
The
we're
statue
out there.
at the front.
Yep, I'll give you 15% off as well on those tours.
There'll be a statue of Velo after the game, too, with a crunchy hot dog in his hand near the kiosk.
Whatif.com/Rabbitohs. Use that code Rabbitohs15 to get 15% off at select hotels, and we hope to see you all at those travel games that we have throughout the year. Now, last week we heard the greatest joke in living memory about Billy Blogs told by the great Mark Ellison. You've got a lot to live up to today, Shannon Donato, but I've been waiting for this for 7 days, and I'm looking forward to hearing Shannon's joke of the week.
That is a lot of pressure, actually. And you know what? I'm not even going to try and compete with the joke. I'm just going to tell a story. It's actually a true story. You guys have both mentioned in 2014 the grand final, and what a night it was. After 43 years, we hadn't, won a grand final, and the expectation. It was just such a great night. Members and fans and sponsors have been with us for all that time. We finally got there, and I was just sort of walking around in the concourse, just soaking up the atmosphere. It was a great night, and I finally took my seat. I was just talking to people around me, and I noticed just behind me, I started chatting to an old fellow, and I said, "Oh, mate, you join the game?" He said, "Yep, been a member my whole life, 50 years, me and my wife." And then we went out to every game at Redfern. We never missed a Rabbitohs game, and then when we had a son, and we brought him up, and the three as a family we'd go out and never missed a Rabbitohs game. And that's a really nice story. Yeah, I love my wife, and the only thing I love more than the Rabbitohs was my wife. And I said, "Oh, that's lovely." He's sitting there, and I said, "Oh, what's that spare seat there?" He said, "Oh, that was for my wife. She was a tragic Rabbitoh." I said, "Oh, that's very sad." Yeah, she couldn't be. He says, "No." And I said, "So you're saving it for your wife?" He said, "Yeah." I said, You didn't want to give it to your son who's a mad Rabbitohs as well?" He said, No, he's at a funeral."
That's very good. Oh, the passion of the Rabbitohs fans.
That is good.
Never ceases to amaze. Very good, Shannon. Yeah, you did very well. It was a lot shorter than the Billy Bloggs joke.
Thank God.
The Billy Bloggs joke was still shorter than your introduction every weekday, Jess.
Wait till you hear my outro.
Oh, my
Hello.
God.
You can go make yourself a cup of tea if you like during that one. Very good. Hello. You're back again next week with your joke of the week.
That'll be hard to beat.
Very good. Righto. Well, I'm looking forward to hearing that. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. Of course, you can contact us with topic suggestions by filling out the form at rabbitohs.com.au/podcasts or on Twitter using @SSFC Rabbitohs and the hashtag Top4Podcast. Don't forget to write us a review and give us a 5-star rating. As we said before, it helps us in the search engines of the podcast apps. And please hit subscribe or follow when you find us in your podcast app so you can get all of our podcasts throughout the week. Downloaded straight to your phone or whatever device you're listening to the podcast on. And speaking of the Rabbitohs Podcast Network, make sure you tune into Rabbitohs Radio with Mavo, Brownie and Chaps. They're three good blokes, three passionate blokes about the Rabbitohs. They talk a bit more footy than us, but they still have a great laugh and they're doing a great job with their show. I think they've been going for about 2.5 years now, and they've built a great following, particularly on social media, and they've got global ambassadors all around the place. And Shannon, you said you had someone from PNG, I think it was, that wanted to jump on board. So we're going to get Mavo and the boys in contact with him and become one of their global ambassadors. We've also got all our media interviews, which we put up each week. We've got the audio version of the Rabbitohs Insider, and we're hoping to have a South Cares podcast sooner rather than later. So we're working on concepts for that. So plenty of chances to have a laugh and have a listen to some hardcore footy chats if that's what you're after. But, of course, the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast is powered by Audio Technica and presented by the great team at What If. And it's been another fun morning, gents. I've had a good laugh.
So have I, Jez. Thank you. And I look forward to Elo's joke next week.
Yeah, I'll do my best.
How many...
For a change. That'll be a pleasant change.
Very good. And I look forward...
I saw you putting a few notes on there before. I wasn't sure.
I said quarter pounder,
I was going to say, is it your lunch order?
Oh, and I'm looking forward to the reaction from both Eddie Farah and Mark Lyons after this podcast as well.
I think they both want to have a good look at themselves.
Yeah. Well, we know Eddie does. That's why there's all those ceiling-to-floor mirrors in the gym.
You reckon Blockhead does it?
Oh, very good. Well, thank you for your company, and we will see you again next week.
Thanks for listening to the Rabbitohs Top 4 podcast, powered by Audio Technica and proudly presented by What If, official travel and pathways partner of the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Support the club and visit whatif.com/Rabbitohs to book your next trip. Don't forget to use the code Rabbitohs15 to get 15% off select hotels. Conditions apply. What If? It's Aussie for travel. Please leave us a 5-star rating and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Up the Rabbitohs.